Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war!
Free Ukrainian prisoners of war.
Free Ukrainian prisoners of war!
Free Ukrainian prisoners of war.
Free Ukrainian prisoners of war!
Free Ukrainian prisoners of war.
Free Ukrainian prisoners of war!
And we will gather here until this war is over. For us, peace for Ukrainians is very easy. 1, stop killing us. 2, leave us alone. 3, release everyone who you have kidnapped. For Russians, Putin said when the peace treaty started to be negotiating and ceasefire, not me, not those people that you see here. Putin said, before we have a long ceasefire and short ceasefire on every front, we need, Putin said it to you, have a look online, we need to address the cause of this war. Yes, I agree with him, because of the cause of this war, he's asking you, please address me, because Russia is a terrorist state.
Russia is a terrorist state!
Russia is a terrorist state.
Russia is a terrorist state!
Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war!
Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war!
And this is why every single European country defense budget is going up. This is why less is being spent here, even in Britain, on healthcare and other things. Because it's not about if, it's when. Some NATO specialists are saying that Russians producing 1,000 plus tanks and other armored vehicles annually. And with this rate, by 2029, the experts say that they will be on par with what NATO has. So we have less than 4 years. Scandinavian generals are saying the same thing. We have 4 to 5 years when, not if they attack us. I saw this week an old interview, it was, I think it's a few months old interview, with an official from Finland who says, my family was born on the land that is now Russia, that they took over in 1949. And Ukrainians, millions of Ukrainians can say, my children will not be able to live on the land that they took again. Moldova, 20%. Georgia, 20%. Finland, they took a big chunk of Finland as well. Ukraine, they're standing now on 18%, but they want around 25%. Nothing is enough for Russia. And this is why we're here. We are gathering here for the living and for the dead. We care about our living. We mourn those who they have slaughtered. This is why it is so important that we gather here, that we come to fundraisers, that we reach money. Some of the people who are standing next to you woke up around 6 or 5 in the morning today and they were gathering funds outside Ukrainian churches for 6 to 7 hours just to gather a few £100 to help the army. Support Ukraine and Euromaidan. We gathered more than 1,150,000 in direct aid. We have packed the other week, 25th of April, we packed hundreds of first medical aid kits. In last 3 years alone, we packed more than 25,000. With British Ukrainian aid, we sent more than 700 vehicles who are not ULEZ compliant. But while for you CO2 pollution is very important, for us, the only pollution that is prioritized right now is Russian scumbag terrorist presence. And this is why we gather here, and this is why we support our soldiers and our friends. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Нашим захисникам тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Дякую.
Ти чекаєш мене цього пекла.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Нашим захисникам тричі!
Слава, слава, слава!
В руках я тримаю примірник Moscow Convention. Мені його подарувала представниця Azovstal Family, коли представники, наші захисники, які були в полоні, були в британському парламенті. I will switch to English. So I have in my hands, it calls Moscow Convention. I was given this by representatives from Azovstal families when our defenders who were captured in Russian captivity were in British Parliament. So I had a privilege to meet them in person and talk to them in person. Here you can see photos of our defenders before and after Russian captivity. You don't need to understand much. You can see everything on those photos, that Russia is a terrorist state.
Russia is a terrorist state!
Russia is a terrorist state.
Russia is a terrorist state!
Russia is a terrorist state.
Russia is a terrorist state!
What Russia does to our people, to military people, civilian people, journalists, I'm sure all of you have heard and seen about journalists whose body has been returned to Ukraine recently. And it's really unbearable. Victoria Roshina, she was a journalist who was showing Russian war crimes at occupied territories. Then she was kidnapped, and for many months no one knew what is happening with her. In February this year, her body was back to Ukraine with no eyes, with no part of the brain and no part of the throat. I also talked to prisoners of wars of Ukraine myself. And all of them tell the same things that Russia does to Ukrainians. It's not just physical torture that can lead to death, it's also mental torture. They make them to sing Russian anthem. They are not allowed to talk to their relatives. Their relatives for years don't know if they're still alive. It's another way of physical torture. I'm sorry, I just need to take... So we have to be voices of those who are in Russian captivity, because they don't have that chance. We have to be loud about them and raise awareness every single day. This is printed version, but if you go to the website moscowconvention.com, there are PDF formats in different languages. So you can read, you can print and share. You can see all the photos of those who have been in Russian captivity before and after. And these pictures speak more than any words. I think it's our duty and our responsibility as a humanity to not let these crimes just to let go. We have to raise awareness. Recently I saw a video of one writer, and she was sharing her experience taking interviews with those who have been through Holocaust, through civil wars, through genocide. And the same thing that people who have gone through these tortures, they share the same experiences. They say that it's not about evil people in the world that it is happening, because it's not that many evil people in the world. It's actually about people who been numb, careless, and indifferent. People who know what is happening and remain silent. I feel the same what is happening now in Ukraine, The war is going on since 2014, almost for 11 years, and for more than 3 years since full-scale invasion. We have prisoners of war in Russian captivity since 2014, and it's more than 10 years. Can you imagine to be in that tortures, going through all that hell for 11 years? I can see bottle of waters here, used just to put to hold, but it reminds me that some of the prisoners of war shared that they don't have access to drinking water. They have to drink tap water with rust. So next time when you will have a glass of pure water, your drinking water, please remember that many thousands of Ukrainians don't have access to drinking water for 11 years. Recently I saw a video from our Ukrainian defender who came back from Russian captivity. And in Ukrainian we say sit in prison, but he was explaining that they are not sitting in prisons. They are not even allowed to sit. From 6 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. in the evening, they have to stand. The only time they are allowed to sit down is for 1 minute to have their meal, which is very, very poor and very, very unnutritious. So this defender has been standing for 3 years in Russian captivity. Just imagine all of you who came today from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And I know it's sometimes challenging for you to stand for 2 hours. But just think of those who have to stand from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. every single day for years. I just want to ask everyone and share this message, not to be numb, not to be silent, not to be careless and indifferent. What is happening in Ukraine can go beyond Ukraine, and it's already happening, by the way, because a few weeks ago, personally me, I saw a woman here in London wearing military jacket with Russian flag on it. When we just started our rally, not many of you actually noticed, but I saw a guy, probably Russian, with military backpack, showing with his hands the sign. That, literally that, which is the sign of Russian Nazis. On May 8th, the whole world will be celebrating the victory for Nazis, and we are standing in front of the monument, the women of World War II, which is very symbolizing, because here we have women fight for Ukraine and we are fighting for our country. But war in Ukraine, it's a combination of First World War with trenches, Second World War with artillery and tanks, and Third World War with drones and AI. Recently I saw a video published by Daily Mirror. It was published on April 12th. They were warning about new weapon of World War III by Putin. And it was blackouts. I'm sure everyone knows what happened a couple weeks later in Spain, Portugal, and a part of France. I still can hear that people say it was because of weather. I wouldn't be so naive. We know that Putin is a terrorist and he won't stop. They won't stop being a military country because the whole economy of Russia is militarized. As soon as they stop the war, their economy will just crash. Do you think they will let that happen? Do you think if they militarize kids from kindergarten, starting from kindergarten, including kidnapped children from Ukraine. They train them from early childhood to hate Ukraine, to hate Ukrainians, and to make their main goal to destroy Ukrainians. They destroy our identity by deleting their birth certificates, by deleting their social media and any information about them. They give them Russians' name, they brainwash them, they use their powerful weapon, which is Russian propaganda. And then, when these children grow up, which already happened because since 2014, thousands Ukrainian children were kidnapped, and many of them were already sent at front line, fighting against Ukraine and Ukrainians. So it's just another form of genocide when Russia is killing Ukrainians with the hands of Ukrainians. Everyone can hear about peace talks and negotiations, but it's mostly about land and some peace guarantees. But for Ukraine, it's about people. The occupied territories, it's millions of Ukrainian peoples, and it's over 1.5 million children under Russian occupation. And I already had a privilege to talk to children who came back from being kidnapped from Russia. And all of them share the same thing, how they brainwashed those children who continue to speak Ukrainian or trying to fight against Russian regime. They're being tortured, beaten, and some of them being killed. We can hear a lot of kidnapped Ukrainian children, but what happens with their families? Their families also get killed, raped, tortured. So you have to understand that occupation for Ukraine is not a peace. For Ukraine, occupation, it's another form of genocide. And those of us who have our freedom and our will to talk and do something, we have to be their voices. For those who are in Russian captivity, for our prisoners of war, for those who are under occupation, for our children who have been abducted by Russia. All of this is international criminal crime, war crimes. And Russia violated everything that Geneva Convention has. So this is why it was like Geneva crossed and then Moscow Convention, because they don't follow any human rights. And we, as a humans, have to be their voices, their power, and their hope for freedom. Please, don't be silent. Don't be numb. Don't be indifferent. Don't be careless. Because this is exactly what leads to genocides, to wars and destruction in the world. Stand with Ukraine, support Ukraine, and please support rallies and donate. Because Russia is a terrorist state.
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 Support Ukraine, protect peace.
Support Ukraine.
Protect peace.
Support Ukraine, protect peace.
Support Ukraine. Protect peace.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Нашим захисникам тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Дякую.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Росії!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
І самим кращим захисникам і захисничим Триці! Слава! 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 Today we have gathered again to remind the whole civilized world, if they didn't realize by this time, who is Russia? What is Russia? What Russian brings to any country who they attack or occupy? Today, mostly, it's about 3 years when our Ukrainian soldiers who went to front line, defend their country, defend their mothers, defend their kids, they got in Russian captivity. 3 years of hell. You know, when we start from Budapest Memorandum, which everyone forgot about it, and nowadays we are looking so much for so many securities measures. We had security measures. It got taken away from us. We got tricked out. So we don't have nuclear weapons. Ukraine had the 3rd largest arsenal in the world. We don't have it. When Azovstal defenders and our Marines left Azovstal, they were promised to be exchanged. 3 years of Russian hell. Standing, no water, no medicine, beating, castration, torture, name it. Russia does not listen to anyone. Russians are terrorists. Russia has broken any world laws and orders you can ever imagine. Not in this war, in any war. So if we are gonna be silent, they don't have opportunity to speak for themselves. They don't have a chance to cry out for help. So the all civilized world needs to understand it's either now or they're gonna have Russians on their territories, and possibly very soon it's gonna happen. So if we know who Russians are, welcome to our world. If we don't arm Ukraine, this is the only chance for our security measures to be implemented, to arm Ukraine, to close our sky, to save our children, to protect our civilians. This is the only way. And our Marines, Azovstal defenders, Azov defenders, any kind of military guys in Ukrainian army is capable, more than capable, to operate on any European ammunition they provided for the past, 3 years? Just like that. So, first of all, free our Ukrainian captives. Second of all, Russia is a still terrorist state. Russia is a 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 terrorist state. And Putin and Russian population, they are killers. They invaded so many countries. They have killed so many civilian, innocent people. You can't even imagine. So, I don't know what's gonna happen next. What this negotiation and everything else is gonna bring to us. But what we need to know, that we have to support Ukraine. We have to continue support Ukraine. We have to help our defenders on the front line, because this is the most security measures we can ever get, because we trust them. Thank you very much for coming for these rallies, and keep doing this, because you are the only people who are actually letting everyone know that in Ukraine war is still on. Sometimes people are asking, oh, is war not ended yet? No, they don't know. And Ukraine is not that far. Ukraine is only 3 hours away by plane. So thank you so much. Keep being these voices of these captives, Ukrainian captives, is very important. Russian prison kills, but also when we are silent, it also, our silence also kills. And what I want you to do now, just to pay a tribute to all fallen heroes, to all fallen Ukrainians in this horrific, unprovoked war, to pay tribute with a minute silence. Thank you.
My friends, sometimes silence speaks more than words. The minute of silence we do, my friends, is to remember those who have sacrificed much, those who have lived, who have suffered, and who have died. But today, we are here to remind people about those who have not died yet, those who are alive and who are suffering every single day of their existence. Russia does not respect international agreements. Russia does not respect the Geneva Convention. It means nothing to them. Behind closed doors, in the modern day Russian gulags, the law means nothing to Russia. The only thing that they care about is power. The possibility that one day people with weapons will charge at those gulags and will free the prisoners. That is the only thing that might even give the Russian terrorists a thought and a little bit of fear and consideration for what they are doing to those individuals, to those peoples, those heroes who they are torturing every single day. My friends, today I would like to remind everyone about one of the greatest catastrophes, greatest atrocities, the biggest atrocities that Russia has committed throughout this war. And in this regard, I would like to make an example to the old Mongol Empire, to the Golden Horde. It is said that when the Mongols went to war, they would bring the captives from the other cities, the other towns that they had captured, and they would line them up in front of their archers, so that the enemy cavalry would not charge, so that the enemy cavalry would stop and would be shot to death by the Mongols. The tactics and the ideology of the Golden Horde have not truly died. They have not been left behind in time. They are being used right now by the Russian terrorist regime. The example I would like to speak of today is what the Russians have done at Olenivka, where they have captured a large amount of Ukrainian heroes.
We are moving towards
Mainly
NATO, and we are now protecting Europe
the bravest
from
amongst the
Russia.
brave.
Do you
What the
know
Russians have
geography
done
just a little
is
bit?
that they
Where
have
is
tortured.
Ukraine?
They have strapped electrical wires to their body parts. They have gouged out their eyes. They have flayed, removed their fingernails, broken their fingers and their arms. They have waterboarded and they have committed all kinds of other atrocities that I do not want to get into here. But we will have to give the gist of
Too
it.
late to your train.
Because the vast
Your
majority of the
train.
population
I'm taking him away.
of what the Russian terrorism
I haven't got a
does
train,
when
bro.
it has the power to get away with it. The vast majority of the population remains unaware of what the Russian terrorist regime does when it spreads their Ruski meat to the countries they plan to take over.
Всі
Make no
журналісти,
mistake,
я журналіст, ви журналіст.
every country in this
А від
planet
якого видання ви
is a country they want to take over.
Я
It's
з
not a
Ютуба.
question of if, it's a question of when.
Я сам на себе
If
так.
they will attack that country in a year, in 2 years, in 10 or in 100, that is the only question, my friend.
ніхто не був.
What they have done in Olenivka
Тобто вам
is
вони
truly
ніяк не
disgusting.
допомагають
They
розповсюджувати.
have packed the prison, the Ukrainian
Тут
prison.
тільки,
They have tortured them,
тільки волонтери.
leaving unequivocal body marks,
Приходить.
signs of torture, and then they bombed that prison themselves. They destroyed
А ви
it,
чули що-небудь?
claiming it was the Ukrainians.
Нічого.
This is a quick question.
А ви де
Why
Вікторія
did they
Рощина
put these
загинула,
prisons
знаєте?
so close to the front line in the first place? Why not some faraway place?
Десь у
This is
Росії.
exactly the reason, because they wanted that plausible deniability. This is how the Russians always function in terms of their modus operandi. They always open possibilities. Oh, the enemy did.
А про
Oh, they
кого
did it to
полонених
themselves.
розповідаєте?
And then they commit the worst and most atrocious acts in human history.
Я
Just
маю свій ютуб канал.
Ну, про якого ви
Нашого.
make no mistake, my friends. Russia is coming in this direction.
І про кого ви
The only thing on their way right
Англійську
now
мову розумієте?
is Ukraine. And if Ukraine does not
Всі
receive
спікери
help and
розмовляють
support,
англійською мовою.
then there will be thousands, millions of Olenivkas all over the world
Я не про
where the Russians will capture entire swaths of the population,
Їх дуже
all of
багато.
the political
багато.
dissidents, all of the
Тисячі,
soldiers
тисячі.
who stood against them, all of those who dared speak
Про усіх.
or even look in the wrong direction. All of them will be in similar
Це
gulags.
провокатор.
And the Russians will torture them. They will squeeze out
Train after
the
5
love of
minutes, you're
life
late.
of these people.
Stop
They
talking
will
to me. I'm
squeeze
trying to
out
get him
what it
away.
means to be
Your
human.
train, 5 minutes.
They will destroy them physically, psychologically, and mentally.
I'm trying to get him away.
That is what they do.
5 minutes, your train.
We do not want that to happen, my friends. We need to stand together. We need to have respect for those heroes who have sacrificed everything
Britain.
so that the rest of the free world
Too
can
late to your train.
remain
Your
free.
train. Too late.
We need to remember what they have done.
The only benefit is the
Give
one
them the
that you
respect they deserve always.
benefit of UK.
The tactics of the Middle Ages, of the Mongol Khanate, have not changed, my friends. Same way as the Mongols would torture their captives, same way as the Mongols would put their captives in front of their soldiers to prevent their enemies from shooting and from charging them. Same way the Russians use the Ukrainian civilians and the Ukrainian captives. Exactly the same situation, my friends. Except in this case, the Russians take it a few steps further. It is something that needs to be remembered, my friends. It is something that everybody needs to remember. And everybody who wants to speak on this regard, who wants to speak about bravery and heroism, needs to know about the heroes of Ukraine. The bravest amongst the brave. The true heroes, true legends of our times, who need to be spoken of, need to be known by everyone on this earth. Today, my friends, we are here to honor those people, those great men and women. We are here to remember those who have died. We are here to remember those who are still alive. We will not forget. We will not forgive those torture marks that are on their bodies.
А він британець?
Those are the marks of history, my friends. Those are the brands that the Russian terrorist regime is leaving, the damage they're leaving on the face of humanity itself. That is what they want to bring to this world. And that is what we need to oppose together. Or else we will all fall. And we will all find ourselves being tortured by psychopaths. World, wake up!
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 Russia is a terrorist state.
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 Free Azov-style defenders.
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 Tribunal for Russian war criminals. Tribunal for Russian war criminals. Tribunal for Russian war criminals. The scars on people's bodies, my friends, they will remain. The scars on their psyche, on their mind, can sometimes be even more difficult to remove. The ones who died, the ones who have suffered, their suffering will not be undone. The dead will not be brought back. But what we can do, my friends, is to move into a better future and make sure that this crime against humanity never happens again. That is something that's up to every single one of us. That is something that's up to every single person who wants to be free and unafraid that tomorrow they will be flayed alive by a psychopath. That is a world that we envision, a world free from such psychopaths, or at the very least, where such psychopaths do not take charge of entire countries, do not enforce the rules and laws, or lawlessness in this case, on countries that want to have nothing to do with them, as Ukraine wanted to have nothing to do with Russia. We need to make sure people know what we are dealing with right now. All of these peace talks, all of these attempts at negotiating with the Russians, at giving them some land, giving them some freedom.
Exactly.
So are we actually getting any
Friends, this is pointless.
You have
A nation that uses torture
your country is
to extract forced confessions from people who have done nothing wrong. It's not a nation you can negotiate with. What kind of a logic? What kind of logic does an individual have? An individual who forces others to tell him what he wants to hear. Not the truth, but exclusively what he wants the truth to be.
So these states
No
should
peace,
stay in
no
corner.
justice,
You see two fucking corners.
no peace.
Now, one of these acts
That is what's going to happen if Russia takes over. That is what we all together have to resist, to oppose, and to defeat.
What they should do, they should help, no?
All together, we will win.
We will win!
All together, we will win.
All together, we will win!
All together, we will win.
All together, we will win!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна! 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 Героям України тричі! Ворогам України тричі! My friends, I would like to lastly remind you all about the important event that's going to happen tomorrow. There's going to be a large parade here in celebration not only of the defeat of the evil Nazi German regime, but also in celebration of all the heroes who have fought and won the war for the free world. Well, there was a time that this country was alone, standing against Nazi Germany. And that was a time when the Soviet Union was sending them metal and oil and gas and Ukrainian grain that they had stolen from the Ukrainian people and forced them to starve to death, sending it all to the Nazis. 8th of May is the date when we celebrate the defeat of the Nazis. 9th of May is the date that the Russian terrorist regime made up to obscure that fact. The fact they wanted to join forces with the Nazis, but were not allowed. Tomorrow, my friends, alongside with the British military, there are going to be Ukrainian troops marching. So please come and show your support. Tomorrow, the events will start at 12 with a short ceremony in Parliament Square. At 12:10, the procession will depart from Parliament Square. It will travel along Whitehall and the Mall, finishing at the Queen Victoria Memorial. The flypast over the Mall and Buckingham Palace will take place at 1:45. Ukrainian troops will join UK forces in London on Monday to commemorate the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day. That is an announcement by the British Ministry of Defence. So once again, my friends, let's remember to stand together with those who have always opposed the Nazi German regime, who have declared war against them when they invaded Poland. Let's stand with the British people, for they are the true opponents of authoritarianism. They are the true opponents of Nazi German values. They are the true opponents of the genocide perpetrated by them in the Holocaust and perpetrated by the Soviets in the Holodomor. That is why, my friends, we stand together with Great Britain, and that is why they stand with us. Thank you, Britain!
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 Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі! Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
Thank you, Trouble. My name is Thomas O'Donoghue, and a British person. I'm very proud to be able to stand here with my Ukrainian colleagues this afternoon, and it's a great privilege for me to be able to speak to you this afternoon. Prisoners is a topic I normally talk about, but I think this afternoon, given the principal focus of this rally is about the detention of prisoners and prisoners of war in general, I will cover off those topics. But the first thing I'd like to point out is, in talking about Britain in the Second World War, it should be noted that Britain is the only actual country that went to war with Germany that didn't have to. It was the only country that actually declared war on Germany, and it could have opted out. France declared war on Germany after Britain had declared war, because it had to, because it was in alliance with Britain. But Britain's distinction in the Second World War is it's the only country that voluntarily went to fight the Nazis because it considered the wrong thing to do, and it considered it was morally right to do that. So that's something that Britain should always rightfully be proud of, is it's the only nation that voluntarily went to war with the Nazis. At that time, of course, the Soviet Union was actually allied with the Nazis, so despite all their talk about being anti-Nazi, when it suited them, they actually remained loyal to their Axis allies in Nazi Germany. I always think it's very important to actually be prepared to speak out against evil and when you see wrong taking place. And there was a poem written by a German pastor in 1945 after the Holocaust. He'd spent some 6 years in concentration camps, and it goes something along the lines of "They came for me." And I think as a non-Ukrainian we should think about this in our own context. And the poem goes something like the following lines: "They came from the trade unionists, but I'm not a trade unionist, so I didn't speak out. They came for the socialists, but I'm not a socialist, so I didn't speak out. They came for the Jews, but I'm not a Jew, so I didn't speak out. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." And for me, that's why we need to speak out, why we need to support our Ukrainian friends, because sooner or later they will come for the West, and they will try and roll their armies over Western Europe, and that's their intention. That's what we need to think about. Now, it's been some 3 years since significant numbers of Ukrainian prisoners of war started to be taken prisoners of war, and it's worth noting that when you see the return of prisoners of war from Ukraine, they always look very like concentration camp victims. And if you listen to what's been said, prior to their release, they're actually given better food to try and make them look better. So you have to wonder what they're actually like in their prisons. Also, Russian prisons since Tsarist days have actually been riddled with TB. And one of the factors that's been taking an impact on the Russian troops fighting in Ukraine is significant outbreaks of TB. And this is one of the consequences of their prisons. So regrettably, keeping large numbers of Ukrainian POWs in prison means they're being exposed to one of the most lethal diseases around. Obviously, the Russians don't give them antibiotics or anything like that. But this is effectively 3 years in a Soviet prison, Russian prison, will permanently damage your health if you're lucky enough to actually survive. And another group we need to think about are not just the people on the front line or the people who volunteer to fight. We need to think about civilians in the occupied areas and how they're being treated, and how if they are even suspected of anti-Russian activities, are being put in prison and being as badly treated as the POWs. So these are another group of people that we need to think about and that we need to talk about. And despite the claims of the Russians that these are now Russians, this is not the case. They're actually Ukrainians and they don't want to be anything else.
Money laundering! Somebody is money laundering!
Well, you can't fight with such a succinct argument as that, can you? It's money laundering. To the best of my knowledge, the Russians in London are amongst the most money laundering group of people out. And we used to go past Stamford Bridge, so you can almost hear the money machine going round. But yes, we need to think about Ukrainian prisoners of war and look at the conditions that they come back in and the unwillingness of the Russians to actually trade POWs. One of the thoughts that was on recently was what was the use of actually invading the Kursk region of Russia. One of the purposes of going there was to actually get some concerned about contract holders and veterans in the country. They don't really care what they do.
Ну, що там?
Ти трошки поговорив. Ти 9-го мая, звісно, приходиш, так? Ти в який день плануєш приходити?
Я там живу недалеко.
Да?
10 хвилин. Пешки.
Тобі прикольно, блін. Слухай, Віталій, може прийди десь у 8:30. Ми туди трошки раніше приїдемо, за 9. Я знаю, що я казав за 9, але ми приїдемо трошки раніше, щоб зайняти місце. І якщо не почнуть до нас чіплятись, там якраз вони будуть, якщо нас мало спочатку, то якраз буде розгар всього. Самого початку, якщо вони почнуть до нас чіплятися. Ну таке побачимо. Якщо можеш, приходь. Там Янис, так? Цікаво. Де там вже буде в цій годині. Ми будемо там сидіти вже весь день.
Дурку почитаєш?
Ну що кажуть, блін, привіт. Це Кучерявий з вами говорить. Когда танці будуть? Танці? Хоч танці, блін? Дикі танці хоче, бач? А що на ненависном язикі? Що по-русски? Гутарики. Це, мабуть, до цих москаликів говорить. Цей каже, у них самих на плакаті з очертаннями України, вона без Крима. Де без Крима? Ти про що, чоловіче? Крим просто у крові. Я, по-моєму, знаю, за який плакат ти говориш. Крим у крові, тому що там ви прийшли. Ну, та й куди не приходите, там все у Криму, все у крові. Чому мітингуємо? Хороше питання. Мітингуємо, щоб нагадати людям за тих людей, яких катують. Катує російський терористичний режим. Гроші, от рожа, кого на війну надо перву. Ева каже. Ева Браун чи що? На, бере. Іншу рожу не подивляться. Цей полон літає.
Why is it using assaults on motorbikes rather than on personnel carriers? So the personnel carriers. It's now possible for a drone that costs about $300 million, a shoot-down aircraft that costs $50 million. Just a very big sum down to about the 2024 though, even that is significant. which made it significantly better in terms of the answer. It didn't get to look at person's capital growth without any capital. So that's all I've got to say about you. Russian economy is now basically military and has to carry on doing that because it's not looking to do anything else. Is that okay as an answer?
Ką, eisim į pergalės dieną dar?
Maskva.
Ne, čia jie prie muziejaus susirinks. Aš ateisiu. Nu, aš bandysiu ateiti. Planuoju.
Galvoju, imti Maskvą, pergalės dieną.
Tai dar toli iki Maskvos.
Didelis šansas, kad 8 dieną ukrainiečiai kažką
Bent jau nepalikti gimtinę. Bent jau pasilikti ten visą.
Jie čia viską už Zelenskį nekariavo, kai žinai, už Landsbergį nekariavo. Tai nekariavo nei už Landsbergį, nei už Zelenskį, kariavo prie savo tėvų.
Taip.
Landsbergis nėra ta Lietuva ir Zelenskis nėra.
Ne už Seimūnus kariausi, o už savo namus, šeimą.
O dėl to yra.
When this is over, it will come the living and the dead on both sides of this ruthless war. My family will bake some bread and break it in a silence louder than any siren or crowd's roar. When those who have made it will wake up above the peaceful sky, nor dead nor living still won't know the answer to the question why. We'll mourn those who you have slaughtered, deeds of deepest sorrow. We know what we are fighting for, our home, and you don't even know who you follow. You want our land, you want us to plunder. You'll have a land for sure, albeit 6 feet under, by a Ukrainian son and brother, Yurko Kondratyuk. This is why we gather here. We gather here for peace in Europe. We had very unusual individual just now who came over. He said, I had a drink earlier. He had a marijuana cigarette there, and then he decided that he's in the right state to ask a question. What are the benefits of freedom helping Ukraine? That he was claiming is a waste of money. So, biggest European war is being raged. Full-scale invasion of the largest European country, which is Ukraine. After Budapest memorandum, after the biggest refugee crisis since 24th of February 2022 that is still going on. What is the benefits of helping a country?
Bet jie sako, kad visi jiems skolingi. Tas skolingas, Landsbergis skolingas.
Man geriausia, aš Landsbergis autoritetas. Jis pridarė tokių kvailelių, nesvarbu, kaip jis nebuvo kaip Pavelas Gavelas, kuris tik teigia. Bet Landsbergis ką pasakė, kaip po kolchozų sugriuvo. Sako, jeigu tie kolchozai tokie geri paimkit, sako, ir susikurkite. Bet kas pas kolchozų sugriuvo, tai pirmiausia visi patys ir visi. Aš nieko nemanau už kolchozų.
Ask yourself, one of the benefits, ask any Syrian, why did not Russia send more troops in to Syria late last year? Because Ukraine inflicted the biggest damage to their army since World War II. Why they needed to ask more than 10,000 of North Koreans from 6th of August until early this year for more than 7 months. If I would have told you at the beginning of this full-scale invasion in 2022 that Russia and that North Koreans would be fighting Ukrainians even on a Russian soil, I was smoking with that young man who left over there. You will tell me that I was saying, but this is what happened. Ukraine is rewriting the history, innovating. If we don't have rockets, we use drones. Because we are fighting for our home. We are fighting for our people. Russia, look at geography. It's the last country that needs more land. What they have done with it. More than 40% of their population do not even have central gas. They rely, like my grandparents in the early 90s, those red canisters of gas that last you few months, sewage, central heating, 30% of Russia, they are against, what do you mean? There is sewage, and if you use the toilet, flushes, it amazes them in 2025, this is what they want for us. Their generals were saying to us for the last 3 years, ruins for Russia, ruins of Russia. This is what they come. Like the Bible says that the devil comes to kill, destroy. This is all they do. Just another country. From Africa to Middle East, from Middle East to Europe. Russians are nothing but scumbag terrorist invaders. They are generational war criminals. This is an undisputed fact, and more than a dozen of nations from Africa to Middle East and from Middle East to Europe can testify to that today. And this is why so many countries, so many different nationalities come here, especially those who are in the close proximity to this beast of an entity that Russia is. And this is why so many Lithuanians, Latvians, Estonians, why do they speak Russian? Because their parents made sure that they speak Russian. In 2023, I believe it was, in summer, when there was an African summit in St. Petersburg, after they enact the Great Integration Agreement, Putin told the whole world and the African officials that blocking the grain that leaves Ukraine to Africa, Egypt, other countries and continents. They call us the breadbasket of Europe. How would you call the Russians? Russia is a terrorist state.
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 Stop Russia, stop the war.
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 Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
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 And during this war and this full-scale invasion, we lost amazing people, more than 100 writers and poets being slaughtered, dozens and dozens of top Olympians got slaughtered. Our best are fighting against their wars. They are in prison with a contract to kill Ukrainians. Okay, you are in prison because you killed Russians. You kill Ukrainians for a year, you get clean slate. If you are a rapist or a pedophile, convicted pedophile, you can work in school. Your sins will be forgiven. Just kill Ukrainians for 1 year. And during this full-scale invasion, I have met the most amazing people who are helping Ukraine to fight for peace in Europe, helping Ukraine to fight for democracy against them. Ever shrinking. So Syrian dictator is now gone. The more dictators on its way. Because for us, peace is just the definition of peace. There are no terms and conditions. Stop killing us. Let our prisoners of war and more than 60,000 civilians out of your captivity. Stop torturing our prisoners of war. And give us peace. We all we want is the absence of Russians. Is a peace in itself. This is why there's so many volunteers that I met. They do amazing work. Some of them are here today. And I would like to ask Mark to come now and share what he does, for how long, where, and it is just one American. We heard recently one American very far away from here say one thing, and I want you to hear what another American, one of my good friends that I met during this full-scale invasion, to say not what he wants, not what America wants, but what he does for peace in Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yuri. My name is Mark. I'm from Arizona in the United States. I'm a former U.S. Marine, and I'm also a former Border Patrol agent in America. And I fought, I was in the Marine Corps during the Cold War. I studied Eastern European and Soviet history during college. I recognized long ago that Russia is a parasite country. Russia is an imperialist country. It doesn't matter if it's the Russian Empire, it doesn't matter if it's the Soviet Union, it doesn't matter if it's what is going on there now. And that's a terrible thing to say about another country, except when it's true. So I grew up, I have a letter from my great-great-grandfather who emigrated from the Netherlands. And in this letter that he wrote to my mother, he warned against tyranny. He warned against communism and fascism. And that is what I grew up with in my family. We value freedom. We value independence, just like you do in Great Britain. We are your cousins across the pond. I know it doesn't sound like that now, but I can assure you that this will not last. It won't last in the United States, and it certainly won't last in Europe and in Ukraine. So Yuri mentioned that we met last year, I believe, here in London, when my partner Jaime and I did a presentation about what we do in Ukraine. We started coming to Ukraine at the beginning of the war in March of 2022. And we met in a town called Medicka, Poland. where refugees were coming across because the full-scale invasion had just begun. We worked for different organizations, and there were wonderful people from every country that you can think of in this area that we were in. And I, at the time, met
Gegužės
so many
9, kai būsim tenai,
Ukrainians.
tai
I
garantuotai bus iš
actually said to
Latvijos
myself,
labai daug
okay, this was
žmonių.
originally going to be a 2-week gig with my
mūsų
son,
Kuris bus?
but I wasn't home for more than 4
šitas,
weeks before I came
karo
back for
muziejus.
another month.
Tai
And
9
as we came deeper into the country,
Aš
delivering
nežinau, ten visą
supplies to
dieną
the
jie
related
šiaip
areas,
bus,
due
bet
to
mes va,
evacuations,
Jie
people's
švenčia
homes have
šventę.
been destroyed. Relocating our neighbors,
ten rusai
delivering
ateis,
medical
rusakalbiai.
supplies and tourniquets
9.
and bleed kits and eye packs for the
Čia
troops on
tie,
the front.
kurie
Jaime and I
Colorado,
invested
Australis,
in
Z.
different
Bet nieks nevažiuoja į
brigades,
Rusiją.
an elder care
Ne, nevažiuoja į
facility.
Rusiją.
Just kind of, we've done a little bit of everything.
Nes praeitais metais, kai aš buvau, aš mačiau ten ir Latvijai buvo.
A week after the
Matai,
flood, when the
Latvijai daug
Kakhovka
rusų
dam was blown
buvo.
up.
Svarbiausia
And we
išvažiavo,
saw
atvažiuoja, kiek aš esu
the
dirbęs,
tragedy
žinai.
that
Atvažiuoja Latvijai, sako,
that
tai
city
ateis
has
dirbti
endured.
nauji.
It
Ateina
was
mes
invaded,
Latvijai.
occupied,
Po to,
then it was burned,
jie apšilo
then it
kojas
was
mes
flooded.
Rusai.
Now it's being attacked daily by drones, and I was
Okay,
just
then,
in
dar
Kyrgyzstan a couple of weeks ago with the church group that Jaime and
Vienintelį
I
pasą turi.
support,
Latviškai.
going to the different villages,
Nešneka, nes
meeting
nedaug,
these
nes
kids.
nepriimti.
And that's one of the things that grips your heart when you go there. These children, they're the
Pas juos
future of
pas mus
Ukraine,
buvo, tai tam pas juos pavardės
and they are
Latvijos.
suffering terrible
Supratau, kad tėvas
PTS.
Latvijas, mama
They
Rusija.
haven't been to school, some of them in 5 years, if you took
O galvoj,
COVID,
kas jie.
and then the full-scale invasion. They are suffering. They need help. They are, like I said, they are the future of Ukraine. So these are just some of the things that we've done, and we are not alone. And I'll tell you that some of the best people, including my good friend Jaime, that we have met in Ukraine have been from the UK, have been
Matai,
from
Rusai
your
pastoviai
country.
pinigų kiša
And I look around right now, this
Rusai
astounds me as an American.
laimi
You have a
skaičiumi,
Ukrainian flag, and a
papirkimais
UK flag, and a
išsikeldami
Ukrainian flag, and a
laimę.
UK flag, and a Ukrainian
Jeigu tu
flag.
neįsigandai,
And this
jau
is the seat of your
tau
government. I
nepapirko tavo
understand, I'm not
bus
100% sure, but I believe that's the
skaičius vienaip ar kitaip tu gali
right?
įveikti.
That makes me proud to be a
Kai
cousin
ten sakydavo
to the
separatistai,
United
Donetskų
Kingdom.
separatistai, kokie
That
paskutiniai
makes me
separatistai,
proud
armija įvedė, bet
to,
separatistai.
and I have
Jų ten buvo
served
gal
with soldiers
1000, gal mažiau,
when I was in the
1000
military.
yra.
Lietuvoje.
And I'm telling you again,
Lietuvoje net atsirasti
this is
tų,
the
kas
last thing
norės
I'll
prie
say.
Vokietijos.
What's happening in my country right now is disgraceful. Now I know that you shouldn't stand on the soil of another nation
Ten jau buvo.
and talk badly about your own. But
Pradėjo
because
taip
we're
vadinti, žinai,
cousins,
su patys supranti, jiem pamokėjo visur, visokiem
because we
dalykam.
wouldn't
Ir
exist
supainė
without
abortą,
you.
žinai. Ir čia žmonės galvoja, kad čia nori atsiskirti
What's
separatistai.
happening in
dar
my
kažko.
country will not
Harkove
stand.
irgi buvo separatistai, tai viskas labai greitai baigėsi. Kai mano dėdė ten sakė,
They're the same enemy.
jo akyse viskas
Thank you
vyko,
for having me.
atvažiavo
Thank you, Yuri. Slava Ukraini!
Ovakovo žmonės, davė pizduliai ir viskas baigėsi tas rungtynės.
Slava
Ir
Ukraini!
Odesoj tas pats. Norėjo,
Thank you.
Odesoj tas pats, tame flega. Dniepre tas pats.
jo,
Ten tas flegas žydėlis taip pat parkė. Savo grupuotės atsudėti, visą savo grupuotės parkė.
užteko 100 žmonių, davė galvą ir viskas baigėsi.
Donetske buvo, kaip tas buvo, Donetsko.
Because I don't know how she finds the time and the energy to do what she does. And when was the first time
Mariupolė to
you went to
valdė, Uzavstalė.
Mėtovas, bet jis nebuvo meras.
Ne, jis buvo, jis galėjo savo grupuotės, jis būtų nusidėmęs, taip, jis ten turėjo bandyti.
Taip.
Bet jis norėjo pažaisti. Žaisti negali. Jis jau įsisibavo asinkalmę ir viskas.
Harkovo meras irgi norėjo pažaisti, bet paskui pamatė, kad jau geriau su Ukraina jam likti. Liko su Ukraina. Iki to pilno, nepilno karo, iki 14 metų, tai ten pusė Ukrainos buvo, ten kaip ir rusiškai šnekėjo, ir televizija, aš kai atvažiuodavau, tai televizija, radijas, viskas rusų kalba praktiškai.
Tai Kijeve kiek šnekėjo rusiškai. Niekas nedraudė rusai specialiai tik kiša.
Taip. Partijos, politika, viskas nuskaldė.
age 16, 15, 16, 17, thinking, if that were my son, he would not be allowed to leave this country now. And these young men have probably left behind older brothers, dads, grandfathers even, who are now all going to be fighting to defend their country. So that was where my determination to start helping just normal people, everyday people within the country, those who are suffering with huge so I go to Kharkiv, Kramatorsk, Kherson. I've been up close to the front line, very close to the front line, and just look around and see what's needed and what I can do to help, and then I go off and get whatever is needed and take it back. And I think that this war is, above all else, apart from being cruel and it's so unnecessary, and there will be one gain only from it, and that is that Ukraine comes out a stronger country than it ever has been before, and the strength of Ukraine is manifesting itself every single hour, every day, and they've been going now for over 3 years. It is unbelievable, and I'm overwhelmed by seeing that solidarity and the strength of mind and the power that country has. And they will come out victorious and the winners. I am 100% certain. Okay, so I raise funds through GoFundMe. My name is Heini Dunn, HYMIEDUNN, if you want to donate. Mark and I use that money to buy medical equipment, to buy essential supplies for people, to buy tourniquets, which Mark buys in the US. One of our main projects at the moment is supporting a mobile school project which goes around to villages in Kherson Oblast, which were occupied, so the villages are very badly damaged and the children live there through occupation. And as Mark said earlier on, a lot of them haven't had school for 5 years now. It's a long time. And doing online schooling when you're in a home where your dad's away fighting or your mum might be a widow by now is really a very, very difficult and challenging situation for those whole village communities. So that's where we're focusing the majority of our funds at the moment, is basically alleviating the trauma and stress by taking psychological services to those kids through learning and recreation. So there's a team of about 50 volunteers, all Ukrainian, who come from all over the country, working through a church network. And they very bravely drive out to the villages and stay with the kids for 1 day, 2 days, in these camps for a week. And we see these being incredibly important. And the idea is that as that project grows and develops and snowballs, we'll be able to take it to other frontline regions like Kharkiv, and in Kramatorsk there's already an organisation now which has expressed an interest in doing a similar project. I've been to Ukraine now 7 times. Each time I go for about 6 weeks. I'm going in July.
Thank you so much. So this is a British person. Shame that guy who was here earlier after a marijuana split and alcohol drink. I don't know how much he would understand even finding being naked in English, but this is what unites us. This is what we want. We want peace and freedom in Europe. After that, there will be another seismic reaction. Ukrainians gonna shake off all the remaining leeches and all the remaining, even now in 2025, one of the biggest Ukrainian mobile networks is being bought by a subsidiary who is originally Russian. Russians will not give up their influence in Ukraine that easily, even when we are victorious. So we're gonna fight another war with corruption internally, and hopefully by the end of this war, when we defeat the enemy outside, we're gonna clean up our act. And every country in the world has corruption. It's unavoidable. But for now, what we do, this is why I support Ukraine in Euromaidan. We don't really care. We work directly, like Mark and Jaime, they work directly with people. They said, I like the way Mark said, we have invested in some military units. Imagine, as people invest in property, people invest money in cryptocurrency. Mark have invested in the soldiers who are fighting for peace and freedom in Ukraine. This is Mark's investment for last 3 years on numerous occasions, and he's, I think, more in Ukraine than he is in America, and he has a military background. And this is why it was so important for us to hear what a real American who was there during the Cold War, who is there during what is going on right now. And as I said, and many other Ukrainians said, let's see what happens. And this is why there's this 4 years of a new American presidency. Let's judge it, but what is done, not what is said. What is done, but not what it says. Jaime did not say what she will maybe do next year. She said what she done in the last 3 years. This is why it's so important. We ask that you come to this war rally. Next weekend on Saturday, we're gonna have a fundraiser. Our volunteers are collecting money outside churches. Our volunteers help each other. If anyone makes a collection to buy a vehicle, they help each other. This is what is uniting us. Not even the passion for Ukraine, but passion for peace, freedom, justice, democracy. Peace, freedom, justice, democracy. This is fundamental values that can't be diluted by a greed of a politician somewhere who used to be a businessman, who was bankrupt 5 or 6 times in his life. Amazing businessman who got bankrupt many times. This is why we are not gathering here for just because it's Ukraine. We are gathering here because it's the largest European country that is at war. This is the largest European refugee crisis since World War II. We are gathering for democracy, peace and freedom in Europe. And this is why every Wednesday at 6 p.m. for 2 hours and every Sunday at 3 p.m. for 2 hours we gather here. We had, if we count Jan's solo marches, Jan is standing over there, more than 650 war rallies we had since 2014, and more than 470 just in last 3 years. And in between those war rallies, we gather funds. And in between these war rallies, we morally support each other. Because I found people who supported me when in spring of 2022, when the Russians were outside Kiev, I was begging my friends to leave Kiev. I cried for 6 months. Almost 6 months, I was crying because I thought I will never see them again. I thought they will be never alive again, and that they will be surely killed by Russians. This is why it's so important that we do. I hope no one, not any person, rational, normal person, wants to live in a world where Russia can attack any country, take what they want, keep advancing for years, keep killing civilians daily with suicide drones that they are flying in from Sudan, from Sierra Leone, I believe. The ambassador of Sierra Leone met, I think it was last year or the year before, met 4 students who are gathering in Alabuga, who are gathering the suicide drones that are hitting civilians every single day. This is why we are gathering here. We are gathering here for peace and freedom in Europe. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
This is why it is so important. This is why it's so important that we show up here. We have one guy with his friend from Hong Kong. He lives in Manchester. He comes once a month just to hold the Ukrainian flag above his head. I doubt he ever been to Ukraine, but when you understand that our enemy is so much stronger, so much bigger than us, yet when you compare, throw away all the nuance of what's going on, or they're advancing 4 square kilometers a day. Yeah, it will take them 1,200 years to occupy Ukraine. Amazing. Putin will see it definitely, yes, in 1,200 years. I think 1,250 more like it. But if you compare April of 2022, them standing on 20% of Ukraine, and May of 2025, they stand on 18 point something percent, you can see that we are not going anywhere. You can see that we will fight for peace and freedom in Europe. And Syrians, a shook-off dictatorship that was ruling them generationally for more than 50 years, because Russians could not afford to help Syria no more. Now they need help. They're financially now in such a turmoil, they don't have enough budget to cover even until next year. They can't afford for this war to go on in 2026. At that fund gathering, Sky was there, Jaime was there, and one of the Brits asked, how long you gonna fight for? How long you gonna fight for? Like they are stronger, they're bigger. How long? How long you gonna fight for? As long as it takes, because we are fighting for our home. We are fighting for our people. We are not fighting for a criminal pardon like Russians. We are not fighting for a paycheck like Russians. For Russians, this is just another war. Georgia, Chechnya, Moldova, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, Central African Republic, Syria. For them, this is just another war. But for us, this is our first war. And all that we are trying to do, that the first war for Ukraine becomes the last war for Russia. Because Russia is a terrorist state.
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 Stop Russia, stop the war.
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 Free Ukrainian prisoners of 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 war.
Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
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 And from my family, before Olga wants to say something more, from my family, from Sergei, who is on the front line, I sent him a video of this war rally. Whatever he needed and asked in last, I think over 18 months, he's on the front line. He's seen horrible things, and he will come back a very different person. He was just an engineer with 2 children, civilian. Most of the Ukrainian soldiers that you see that are being killed on the front line, they were civilians. They're civilians who are forced to kill another human being, if you can refer to Russians as such, after you see what atrocities they commit to journalists, to civilians, bombing our cities. We bomb their army bases, they bomb our city centers. This is the difference. And when they say we are the same people, we are not the same people. For the fruit of Ukraine fighting will be peace in Europe. For the fruit of their war crimes will be just more war crimes. God forbid Ukraine falls, Moldova is next. I'm not saying that to you. They are saying that to you. They said, they keep repeating the same thing. We have unfinished business. And last summer, I believe, or a little bit like about a year ago, Moldovan president said that the peace for Ukraine means peace for Moldova. I repeat the words of Moldovan president, that the peace for Ukraine means peace for Moldova. That means that Ukrainians are fighting for Moldovans. That means that Ukrainians are fighting for peace in Europe. We are not just fighting for ourselves, because we are the buffer between them and Europe. They keep threatening Europe. They keep discussing on their national television how many nukes will it take to bomb Poland, how many nukes it would take for Scandinavia. This is the difference between us. We want peace. They want peace of our land, and no peace is enough. We will have Olga speak, and we're going to conclude. So from me and my family and my cousin, thank you for everyone who keep coming. Thank you for everyone who keep coming to our Toloka and other events. We are doing that because we care for peace, freedom, and democracy, and we are fighting against the shrinking club of dictators. One fell last year in Syria, few more to come. There will be a lot less dictators after this war when Ukraine goes victorious. Slava Ukraini! Ukraina! Україна! Україна! Нашим захисникам тричі!
Слава! 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 Всегда!
I just want to remind you that we gathered together here to give a voice for prisoners of war, and one of our representatives from Women Fight for Ukraine contributed recently with her photo she made of our soldiers who were back from captivity, and there is online version of this article on the website ueuropean.co.uk, but it will be a published version available on Wednesday, and the name of it, Putin's Vanishing Prisoners. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers and civilians have simply disappeared into Putin's Yugoslav. No one knows whether they're alive or dead. And its story is not just about Ukrainians, but also about British people who joined Ukrainian army and were in Russian captivity. So please read the article and please share with everyone you know. And now we will have Ukrainian anthem.
Just before we're gonna do the national anthem of Ukraine, I wanted to say a few important dates. So next Wednesday is our normal rally as usual, but please look online just for any updates. Also on the 9th of May near Imperial War Museum, we're gonna have a contra-protest of Russians who will gather there, as they usually do every single year, to celebrate 80 years of victory in the Second World War. So the volunteers will be there from 9 o'clock in the morning along the whole day, as long as they are there. So if anyone is available or have a time, please do join us, because we're gonna stand there pretty much whole day. And another two important dates: the 10th of May in Fulham Hub, we're gonna have Toloka from 3 p.m. and also on the 24th of May we're gonna march through central London for Vyshyvanka's March, but we're gonna march for Ukrainian children of war, just to remind the whole world that Russia is stealing our kids at the moment. 20,000 of kids have been stolen, only around 700 we have returned home, so it's a pretty large number. And also, we were talking today about victory and peace. We need peace on our conditions. And also we need justice. We need justice for every single Ukrainian who've been killed, tortured, kidnapped, and suffered. It's not just about sign the paper, because any paper we signed in the past with Russia meant nothing at all. So please, you are doing very important job by coming here and reminding everyone that if Ukraine falls, who is going to be next? Thank you. Slava Ukraini!
ще не вмерла України, ні слава, ні воля, ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, задаруєм браття у своїй сторонці, душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть москалям!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Найкращим захисникам і захисницям тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
І нашим клятим ворогам тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
Всім дякую! Все буде Україна!
Is it ending now? Finished? Done? Done? А почему я не могу? Все, будет как... У Виталика есть сын? Окей, я буду.
А? А. Так, що ми нас жесим? Да? О май гад. Почекай. Павло! Павло! Не знаю, може граємо, не граємо. Можна запитати.
Okay, how do I get access to it?
Хочеш прочитати?
Thank you. On Telegram. It's on Telegram.
Вашингтон, Донецкий, купите столі. Ну, вперед.
Okay.
Observe all of the
Do that then via Instagram or Messenger?
Yeah. Mention something. I'll send you the link. To the Telegram. You just click
I'll
it.
just
and you
remind
join.
you.
Yeah. Remind me and I'll let you.
Так, мій малючок прийшов на мітинг, щоб потім піти Uno грати.
Да?
Так, Uno маєш?
Ну, я то Uno маю з собою, але я не знаю, чи ми йдемо в Uno грати, бо ці люди хочуть тут, наші друзі, йти в більярд грати.
Більярд?
Да, це туди далеко. А ви що, всі в Uno хочете йти грати?
Ну, він хоче.
А ну чекай, хто у нас є? Ти теж йдеш, Владик, чи що? Чи ти йдеш додому?
А більярд де?
Це, напевно, ні. Більярд це в інше місце, типу, вони хочуть йти. Це...
сказала. 9 травня.
Не знаю, Максим. Есть.
Как проблема?
Они бильярд хотят идти играть.